Are you feeling lost in the sea of hopeful adoptive families? Or maybe you're just starting your adoption journey and you're absolutely panicked at the thought of creating your adoption profile? Don't worry, friend. On today's episode, I'm going to give you 3 tips to help your family stand out from the crowd and make your adoption profile creation process a whole lot easier. If we haven't met yet, my name is Amanda, and I'm an adoptive mom of 2 on a mission to make your adoption easier, faster, and more affordable. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please click the icon and then ring the little bell so that you get notified each and every time I release a new video. Your adoption profile creation process can be one of the most scary things in the adoption process. I remember being in that process myself. And the first time around, it was just all about answering a list of questions and pushing it back to the agency and calling it good. But then the panic and the worry started to set in. I worried that I said the wrong thing. I worried that I really had not treated this opportunity to tell our story in the best way. And I worried that we were just lost in a sea of hopeful adoptive families. Because more than anything, I just wanted my expectant parents that were reviewing the profiles to see how much love we had for this child. And I was worried that that really wasn't coming across in the profiles in a way that would help us stand out from other families around us. So that's exactly what we're going to focus on today. I am going to give you 3 tips from not only my own personal experience, my client's experience, and then really the rich experience I have in reviewing thousands upon thousands of adoption profiles over this past several years, really digging into what makes some families match faster than others. And what the first tip that I've learned is that you really have to be clear on your story. If you've been around me for a hot second, you know that I really believe in this idea of if you confuse, you lose. And so if your profile is not stringing together in absolute clarity a picture of what life is like with you, then there is 0 chance that she's going to want to get to know you more on a deeper level. Because at a high level perspective, she's just absolutely confused of what your life is like. And this often happens when people just answer a list of questions and don't think about how the total picture comes together. And this is what I use with my clients. I use a tool that I've created called the Adoption Profile Clarity Builder System. I walk you through step by step how to create the story of your family at a very high level so that it is really clear the core tenets of your family. And that comes through inside your profile. And that's really, really important. Okay, friend? All right. So the second tip that I would share with you is you've got to make sure that your profile is compelling. Now, you may say, well, duh, like why else am I creating a profile? It needs to be compelling. But let me kind of unpack this with you for a second. So I believe that there is a match for everyone, and not everyone matches each other, because you have to have a similar vision of what this child's life is like to what she envisions for this child. So if you envision a life full of travel and adventure and spontaneity, and that is not core to who she is, that may not be something she's looking for. And friend, let me say this really loud. That is okay. Not everyone is a perfect match for everyone. The fact that she's wanting to place a child for adoption and you want to adopt does not make a perfect match. And trust me, I've lived this from experience. I had a disruption. And while we conveyed the life that we wanted for this child, it ultimately didn't match the life that she wanted for her child. Ultimately, she saw herself parenting this child, and that is phenomenal, and that is her choice. But our visions didn't match, and that is the core to the disruption that happens. And so the more clear you can be in your overall story, and then the more compelling you can write that, is really, really important. And I teach my clients how to do this through the Creating a Compelling Stories framework. And I help you organize your information through the Adoption Profile Clarity Builder system. And then we take that information and create stories to help that come to life. But then we need to write that in a very specific way and leverage a combination of photos, videos, and the written word together to appeal to the different learning styles, so that no matter how she's receiving information and processing information based upon her learning style, that she can receive your intended key message. There really is an art and a science in the way you create and share your adoption profile, and that really comes to life through the Creating Compelling Stories framework, which is tip number 2. So before we move on to tip number 3, I'd love to know a little bit more about where you are in your adoption profile creation process. Have you decided on what profile elements you're using? Are you using an adoption profile video, an adoption profile website? Are you using adoption social media pages? Or maybe you're using the old school adoption profile book, which, by the way, I think is dead. If you haven't watched the other videos, go check them out. But I do think there is a way to, kind of be a more mobile first, if you will, a more digitally first profile. And so I'm very curious, what are you using, and are your profiles really focused on enabling a digital first mindset? So drop a comment below. Jump over to the Facebook group. Let's have a conversation about this. And if you're, kind of still watching this when my live training series is running, make sure that you jump into the episode guide or the notes section of the episode that you're watching or listening to, and grab your seat at that free training, because we can talk about this live together in that training. Okay, so now let's go to tip number 3. So tip number 3 is really creating an emotional connection. That is what is going to help you stand out from the sea of hopeful adoptive families. Because let's take a minute just to think about the experience that she has when she's first starting to look through profiles. So if she is, leveraging an old school adoption profile book, she's got a stack of them, right? And she's scanning through them, flipping through them, and seeing what jumps out and what makes a connection with her. And if she doesn't make a connection with it, she puts it down, she goes to the next one, all right? But let's think about the way most expectant families are really matching these days. And they're matching through, some sort of digital media. So either they've been sent a list of websites from an agency, or adoption profiles on websites by an agency, and they're scrolling through that on their phone. And then they're clicking on names, or maybe there is a short, name with a little picture and a little bio that they get before they click on that. And then they're clicking into that and they're scrolling through the website, right? So first thing that you do just as a human is you're, searching for opportunities and threats, right? That is just the way the human brain works. And so she's scrolling through, she's just doing an initial pass. And if something catches her eye and makes that spark, that connection, then she's going to dive in and want to know you more. If not, she's hitting the back button and going to the next one on the list. And really the same thing holds true when you're thinking about how she's examining adoption profiles via social media. There's, someone makes a post, the admin in that group, or she makes a post, and then there are hundreds of comments just like that, right? And so how do you stand out within that, that crowd right there? It's by making an emotional connection and using a framework that I teach you on how to respond to social media activities or social media posts looking for potential hopeful adoptive families. So you really need to create a deeper connection in a nanosecond, really. There's a marketing kind of term, if you will, that says that you've got 3 seconds to make a connection with your audience. And I would argue that in this space, 3 seconds is a bit generous to get that initial click into your profile, to get to the initial click into, I want to know more about you, because there are literally hundreds of responses, right? So you need to make sure that the response that you're providing is really building an emotional connection. And I teach my clients how to do that through the Emotional Connection Builder framework. And specifically when it comes to social media, I have a framework that I teach around self-matching your adoption through social media. And so I teach you how to respond in a way in those groups and on those opportunities that's going to create an emotional connection instantaneously, so she can determine whether or not you two share the same vision for this child's life and whether or not it's worth clicking on your profile to learn more about you. Okay, so there you have it, friend. 3 tips just to help you get started on creating an adoption profile that's going to help you stand out from the crowd. I know that creating the adoption profile is one of the most challenging pieces when you're getting started in the overall adoption journey. Trust me, there are much more challenging things in your total adoption journey to come, friend. So don't make creating your adoption profile journey any harder than it has to be. Learn from an expert, get in community with those that are in the same process, and know that you're not competing with each other, because you each have a different vision of what this child's life is like with your family. And she has a specific vision, and it's about communicating your vision in a clear enough fashion that she can see that, so that you can find your authentic match in a more quick fashion that actually makes the adoption process easier on both of you, because then you both rest more easily knowing that you have a joint vision for what this child's life is like at the, kind of call it the end of the adoption journey, beginning of the life journey together, so that you can work together however fits your life for the two of you to deliver upon that vision for that child's life. So I know, again, it can be hard, it can be frustrating, it can be super scary to create your adoption profile, but it does not have to be, friend. Join our live training that is coming up. And if the training time has passed, make sure you sign up, because you never know when I'm going to be offering it again. And I really do want you to get help on your adoption journey, because you really deserve someone to help you create your adoption profile, friend. All right. Remember, anything's possible with the right plan and support. I'm here with you every step of the way, and I'm cheering you on because I have faith in you, your family story, and I love you and cannot wait to see the beautiful family photos at the other end of this journey for you, my friend. I'll see you soon.